Rosie, it is so awesome to have you here. It's so cool because I've been on your podcast and now you're on my podcast. So I've
Yeah.
really been looking forward to this conversation, knowing a little bit more about you. I just know that this is going to be absolutely epic for our listeners. So, yeah, for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Oh, thanks, Candice. And yeah, honestly, absolute pleasure to be here as well. I had such a great time with you on my podcast, and yeah, really happy to speak today as well on yours. So about me, as I say, my name's Rosie Milsom. I'm based in the UK. I'm a self-worth and confidence coach. So I work largely with women, purpose-driven women, women with a mission. I always say around kind of founders, entrepreneurs, change makers, anyone with a drive to do something that makes a positive difference to people's lives. So yeah, I'm all about helping people get clarity on their purpose, get clarity on their vision and mission, and then give them the self-belief, to bring it to life without self-doubt and burnout. So I've worked with people along a wide range of self-worth issues, to be honest, but that's largely where I do. It's around career purpose, or people that have like a vision to bring a business to life, but they know that their kind of self-doubt or self-worth is blocking them. I help them unblock that so that they can do what they were here put on this earth to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that so much, and we'll get into the work later on because I absolutely love it. So, okay, now we always start off traveling back in time. My favorite part of the podcast. Tell us about that first paycheck, that first job you had. How old were you? What did you do?
Oh, wow. Okay, so if we're going way, way back in time, the first ever job that I had was, I was quite a late bloomer in terms of like employment, I think, for some people. But yeah, the very first job I had was as a waitress in the local pub to me. So pub restaurant. So it literally was right over the road from me. I was 17 years old. At college, my mom had enough of funding, whatever I wanted to do of a weekend, or hearing me complain about not having enough money to buy the clothes or makeup that I wanted, most probably. So that was like my first, like job you do alongside education. But if you were talking about like more employment than that, or like a full-time job, it would have been when I was after I graduated from uni. I worked in a call center for selling. I was one of those annoying people that cold call you and offer you accidental injury cover. And they used to get a £10 high street gift voucher if they took up a 1 month trial, and then you'd have to secure their bank details. And it was all legit. We weren't fleecing. It was a legitimate company, but the idea is that you're enticed to take on the trial, and then hopefully you don't cancel, and you carry on or you read the insurance and go, that's great, I'm going to keep it. So yeah, I was one of those people, and I ended up being one of the top 5 salespeople in the center. So I must have been doing something right.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, so let's go back. So you started 17. You say you're a late bloomer, and I always find that funny. People I interview start work so young.
So, that's what I mean. I felt like most people were old. Like sweeping hairdresser studios at 14, or doing a paper round or something. And I just didn't. I was maybe privileged to not have to do that.
Yeah. So what were some of the lessons learned? I mean, I was a waitress. I think I might have even mentioned this to you, but on Baker Street in London. So high end.
Oh, wow.
It was a 5-star restaurant. So all the bankers and stuff, I had to serve them, and I was the worst waitress. So tell us about your experience at the pub across the road.
A pub across the road. I think it was very kind of formative years. And I think some of the people that I knew that I was at school with, because I was quite a young 17 in terms of like school year, my birthday's the 31st of August. So a lot of my friends were being there drinking. Obviously, it meant I couldn't, because you have to be 18 years old in the UK to drink. But I think for me, what I remember, it was almost like my first experience of relationship building and getting out there and being able to speak to different people, because I consider that to be one of my skills now. And I'm often, told that by people that know me or otherwise, I can just talk to anyone. And I think being a waitress, I have a specific memory of I used to serve the Sunday lunch shift. And it's quite a small, like local, village pub. And the same people would come in for Sunday lunch every time. There was like a middle-aged couple, and then there was an old elderly couple, and then there was a family, and they would all, I would serve them, I would speak to them, and then they'd all give me like a little tip out of their money. And I remember the elderly couple, sometimes you don't realize how much you become part of someone's life, because I thought they were just, oh, what a sweet elderly couple. And I told them that I was leaving to go to university, and the next shift would be my last shift. And they cried. They were so sad that I wasn't going to be there, because I'd become such a part of their, Sundays. And, we'd had a pleasant little chat. And then she asked what my address would be, or maybe did she send it to my mom's? I can't remember. But not long after I got to university, she had sent a gift, and she'd crocheted me a little potpourri, but I don't know if people have potpourri, but it's like smelly stuff you put in your house. She'd like crocheted me that, and like another little gift. So yeah, I think because so much of my work after that, and I'm sure we'll get to that, it was based on relationship building, being able to speak to people. I think that's what I kind of learned there, because I felt quite self-conscious, I think, speaking to like grown-ups. I say that in like, inverted commas, because technically I was supposed to be a grown-up, or getting towards being a grown-up. But I think having that role and being a waitress definitely enabled me to speak to different people of different ages and just come out of my shell a bit more, I think.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That is so nice. What a lovely story. That elderly couple, I'm like, oh,
I know. So I still remember them so fondly.
Yeah. Oh, the people who have an impact on you. It's so awesome. And I like your lesson learned there, that you could speak to people, right, of all different, you were a kid at heart, even though you were supposed to be this grown up.
Yeah.
I mean, some days I still don't feel like a grown up, so I can still use the inverted commas.
Yeah. I think we're all there, aren't we? I think it's because we feel like grown up means you've got everything together by now, and actually I don't think anyone ever gets everything together.
No one's completely grown up ever, which can be fun too.
Yeah.
All right. So then the call center thing. So top 5 salesperson. So actually we're pretty kind of similar, because I was also a waitress in London, and then I was also in a call center in London. But I didn't sell things. I did the surveys. Right. So I had to call people and do surveys for Safeway. And
wow. God, that takes me back, Safeway.
Yes. So obviously the survey showed that they not doing the best job, although people loved it. So anyway, I don't know. Tell me about that. Like, how did you become a top 5 salesperson? Because I sold something and I got fired in 2 weeks because I sold 0 things.
Do you know, I'm not sure. Well, I can tell you how I got into it. It was literally graduating from uni, not having a job yet, and going, right, what am I going to do? And I think one of my friends maybe had got an agency, and they'd referred them to this job, and they ended up doing something else. But then they were like, oh, have you seen this job? It actually pays, quite well for, back then. Because I think up until then I'd been working at a local pub in the town. Basically the pub job that I'd done alongside while studying for my degree, and I needed like a full-time job that paid better. So I went to that. It was a sales thing. I did some training, and then you would just be automatically connected to people over and over again. And I'm not sure necessarily what it was that made me be kind of consistently in the top 5, but I think maybe it comes back to what I was talking about before, about being able to speak to people. I think I've always been able to like develop a sense of like trust, and just, I think it's in your interaction and what people are hearing, how safe they feel, like the intonation you use. I don't know. I don't know which one it was, but being able to know again how to speak to people, reassure people, make them feel like there's a decent person on the other end of the line. Maybe it was something to do with that. But I've always had quite a sense of pride in any job that I've done. I've always, a typical middle child, high achiever at school. Maybe I just wanted to keep that going. Always do my best. It's always been, important to me to do as well as I can at something. So I guess I probably cared perhaps more about it than some of the other people that were in there just to, make their money. You did also earn on commission, so I'm sure there was a money motivator in there as well.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it there where you said building trust, that there's an actual decent human being on the other side. So I do feel like this is already a theme coming out, is that you just get people and you build that trust really quickly in very initial conversations, which is awesome. All right, so obviously you didn't do that forever. So what came next? What did you study, and then what came next after that work?
So I studied a degree in performing arts. That's what I studied at both college and university, and that's what I got a degree in. And then I had basically a bit of a crisis of confidence when I was at uni. So I've spoken about this, in my work, in my social media. In fact, I think I even spoke about it quite recently in a recent post. But I think when I grew up, let's say I was quite relatively academically gifted at school. I was always top of the class. I was head girl at school. I was, leading the school play. I was very much, big things were kind of expected of me. And then, my parents were always very supportive about whatever I wanted to do. And, I had a passion for performing from a very young age. Like I said, I did that at college and university, but I think I was probably in quite a protected bubble in terms of where I grew up. It was relatively rural. And then, when you get to like high school and there's more children around, you realize, or you, at least you think, oh, actually, maybe I'm not quite that special, because there's people just as smart as me, if not smarter, that they're more talented than me. You become more self-conscious. And I think I kind of, even though I carried on doing performing arts at college, university, I don't think I love the course I did. I've got friends there for life that I still see and love, but I don't think it was the best one in terms of my strengths for performing. And so I lost a bit of confidence in that. And so I came out, I did the sales job. I got another sales job to save up to go traveling around Europe, which I did. And then when I came back, I fell into like a customer service type tech support role. And then I got made redundant from that. So now we're in my mid to late 20s by this point. So I got made redundant from that. And then I was like, no, I want to go back into the arts. Let me know if I'm going too far in the story, because I'm losing track of what the question was now. But you were saying what's next, didn't you? Yeah. So, I wanted to go back into the arts, and much like for a lot of people, redundancy feels like a scary thing at the time, especially because my then or soon to be husband by that point was working at the same place as me, and so our mortgage, depending on both of our kind of salaries, and we got made redundant, but. As for a lot of people, it was the best thing that could have happened, and it redirected me. And I started working for a local council in their arts development department. And then I got a role. I thought to myself, I love organising events. I love speaking to people. I'd love to work in like a theatre, get back in the arts, but I'd want it to be like a 9 to 5. I don't really want to do like front of house and stuff like that. And then, this job came up as a fundraising administrator in a really big theatre in Birmingham, which is in the Midlands in the UK. And I went for that despite not having any experience, and I ended up getting the role. And that was a pivotal point in my career, because then I became, that started a now 13-year career in fundraising. Because as well as a coach, I do fundraising consultancy on the side now. I used to be in employment roles, but that was the beginning of a whole new career path, and that was at 29 years old.
Okay, I want to revisit that redundancy. So many people I interact with, and I'm sure same with you, have been recently laid off. Laid off. And it really shakes your confidence. So I went through it, and I completely lost myself because I love my work. I think I'm really good at it. It's something, I always said I do it for free. I do it for free a lot of the time. I mentor people, and it just hits that confidence. And now I know you also coach for confidence and things like that. So I would just like to revisit your experience of that. You had this mortgage and all of this stuff, and you said it kind of knocked you. In the moment, how were you feeling? And then what did you do to get out of that? If you're speaking to someone now who's just been laid off and they're feeling like, what is my value? Talk people through that in terms
do you know
of
what?
your experience.
So at the time, the reason they made us redundant is because they were moving the office up to Scotland in Glasgow. So, it wasn't so much like a restructure, because there's all different types of redundancy, isn't there? And to be honest, for me, because that job was not like my purpose, it was not my identity. Do you know what I mean? I didn't feel as attached to it as possible. But what was difficult was that they were keeping on a small amount of the team to work on the handover, and so they had to decide based on who they thought was best, who they offered those roles to, and we all got interviewed by HR. And what was also difficult was that my partner at the time, who, like I said, became my husband, was also my line manager. He wasn't for, everyone knew we were in a relationship. So I had a different direct line manager for, my appraisals and stuff, but he was in charge of the team. And so he also had to choose who to offer these roles to. But there was the double-edged sword of, am I the best person for it? But also, am I about to make my girlfriend redundant? So there was the complication around that as well. But do you know what? The worst thing for me wasn't the redundancy itself. It was the job search afterwards. That was the thing that killed my confidence. And I'll tell you why. Because we were made redundant in the middle of, the year after the, or was it in the year of the financial crash in 2008, 2009? So there were recruitment freezes everywhere. I had never been out of work before. I'd never claimed what we call the dole here, but I know it's called something else in America and elsewhere. But it's basically, with government funded, money. And I was applying for jobs like you would not believe, and hearing nothing, because there was, hundreds, much like it's been recently, really, in the last few years, too many people going for too few roles. And I remember there's even a Facebook status of mine that comes up every year now, because, it comes up in your Facebook memories saying like, I can't even get a part-time admin job at the council, bad times. Like, that was what I was saying. I was going for these roles that I was clearly overqualified for, and I couldn't even get those. That was the killer. That was the, wanting to, feeling like that lack of purpose, getting up every day, searching for jobs, applying for jobs, not hearing back from jobs, having interviews for jobs. So that was the hard part of the experience for me. And I think how I got out of it was it's just consistency. It's just believing that if it isn't that, it's something else. And again, as with most of these situations, who knows where I would be if I'd got that part-time admin job, but I didn't. And I ended up getting that freelance work with the arts department at Walsall Council, which I think ultimately helped me get the role at Birmingham Hippodrome in the fundraising team. And that led obviously to, this career that's led to where I am now. So, I think it's having that belief and conviction in yourself. You don't always have to pretend that something is good when it's not. It's not about toxic positivity as such, but it's knowing that this is the opportunity that you make of it. Like, one of my core values is optimism. That's it literally is like within my blood. I've even got a necklace with optimism on. Like, everybody knows me to be almost annoyingly sometimes, I'm sure, optimistic. And I think having optimism, as I teach my clients and teach other people, is not something you're born with. It's something that you learn. Anyone can be an optimist. And I think if you have that sense that that things are going to work out, not just because someone's going to do it for you, but because you believe that you can attract those things. But two, because you're an optimist, you'll show up differently. You'll look for those opportunities. You'll do those things. So I think as the most that you can nurture that sense of optimism when you're in those spaces and know that it is going to work out, the more likely you are going to find the way out more quickly. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. Believing, what's it, delusional?
Delulu, they often say nowadays.
That word
You've got to be
being used a
delulu
lot
about
now.
the life you want. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, just be delusional about your life. And I am too. So, delusionally optimistic sometimes too. So yes, that really hits, just that belief that it's going to work out in spite of sometimes the facts. Like, you need to be optimistic despite everything that's going on. Just believe that it's going to
because
work out.
circumstances change. It might be the facts when you're there at the time, but that's not how it's going to stay forever unless that's the place in which you stay. Do you know what I mean? You have to be open to it moving on and being willing to move it on. As I say, nobody's coming to save you. Do you know what I mean? This is your life. This is your party. And what comes from it is I think has a huge part to do with the perspective you have, and of course self-worth, but we'll speak more about that in a bit, no doubt.
Yes. All right, so did you say 13 years you worked in this career, the fundraising career? Okay.
Yes.
So now, during that time, I mean, you must have had good days, bad days. Tell us about a lesson learned, something that you want to share with the listeners that maybe they're going through, that you went through, that you want to share some experience with them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, I would say, is don't get too caught up in being behind, because I didn't start that career until I was 29. And that meant that a lot of the people around me, or a lot of my peers, or people that were my age, were already in there, but in management positions, moving up to senior leadership. And I did find that a little bit hard at first, being line managed by somebody who was the same age as me. And I shouldn't, because why should that matter? It doesn't matter which timeline you're on. The timeline you're on is the timeline that you're on, and it doesn't mean that you're any less capable. You're just say perhaps a little bit less experienced. But I think sometimes, well, that definitely bothered me to a degree, but I think sometimes it made me play a little bit smaller. I felt like I was a child and I wasn't. But yeah, I would just say, don't get too caught up in, I'm not where I should be by now, or if you're thinking about starting again or starting a new career or a new path, don't be discouraged by but by what timeline you feel like you should be on, or whether you should be far, as far as you are. You're where you are, you're where you're at, and it's what you do with that matters. And eventually, I found a real purpose in there. And if we come back to that part that I was saying about being able to speak to people, build relationships, be comfortable in all those situations, suddenly I was working in between that time. I kind of missed out. I was working at the local council, not the arts one. This was in customer service, booking in weddings, death registrations, birth registrations, booking, working for highways and stuff like that. So I went from, again, working in this contact center to organizing gala dinners and hosting, MPs and, lords, from the House of Lords, but also speaking to a patron on a phone and booking in tickets. And again, my ability to just be okay in all of those situations and know how to kind of, carry myself and speak to people meant that it was somewhere that I really thrived, and I really found my purpose. And I had some of the best years of my life in that job at Birmingham Hippodrome. I then went on to more senior roles. So I went into management, and then I went into senior level management in fundraising. And then I started doing a few other bits. So I started freelancing. I became a celebrant. So like people that conduct weddings, and I added that to like my thing of like what I used to call my paid hobby at the weekend. And I just started. And again, that again speaks to my well, I think partly it speaks to the performer in me, because I get to stand up and conduct a wedding for everybody. But again, it's what really drew me to it was about how I might be able to make people's wedding days like as special as possible by just delivering a ceremony with real kind of chutzpah and passion. And I started to include all of these things and really find my groove in life. And then I started going through what ended up being a 10-year struggle to have children, which completely threw my life upside down, inside out, and was a huge motivator towards me moving a lot towards personal development, which obviously you'll know that this is all about.
Yes. Oh, you have so many facets to you. I did not know that you do weddings too. So yeah, now we need to pull this all together to where you are today, because the fundraising, you do weddings, and that 10-year journey, you can share as much as you want about that. I will not pry, because I know that's deeply personal.
No, I'm happy. I'm an open book about it, so happy to share how it went. But so by this point I was working at the Hippodrome still, and I'd progressed in my role, and I'd been married for a few years, and I was like, right, okay, next thing is try to have children. I was about 31 at the time, and like it doesn't for some other people, it just didn't happen for us in the first kind of year and a half. And so we started going through tests, and then eventually we ended up having what was 3 rounds of IVF in the end. And just a bit of a spoiler alert, I didn't end up with my kind of happy ending, as some people say, although I'm very much happy and settled and accepting of where I am now. I'm very, very grateful, and I'll speak more about that in a moment. But going through that alongside my role, because I also put my career on hold for a while, because I was like, no, this place has great maternity pay. I'm not going to apply for a job and move up the ladder, because what if I get pregnant, or what if treatment works, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of stayed where I was for a while, but then because of the very nature of where I was and the age of all of my colleagues around me, everyone started getting pregnant around me. My friends started getting pregnant around me. My sister was getting pregnant around me, and it just became a bit much. And then I think at one point I kind of had enough and said, right, I'm not going to put my life on hold anymore. I'm going to apply for a management role. I'm going to leave and go somewhere else. So that's what I did. And I carried on with treatment. Like I say, unfortunately, those things weren't successful. But what happened as part of that journey was it led me to the world of personal development and mindset, because I'd done absolutely everything I could physically to have a baby. And I found that very incredibly emotionally difficult, even, with the sense of optimism that I had. I've always been very much a type A type person, whereas, you tell me to do this, I will do absolutely everything. Like to the point that I had like this 6-month period where I was preparing for one of the rounds of IVF, and I cut out everything. I cut out sugar, like refined sugar. I cut out alcohol. I stopped doing cardio. I cut out all of the things that they say you shouldn't have. Like I only had natural like foods, cleaning products. I even bought like fertility dolls. Honestly, I went all in. And it can be very hard when you're that type of person to put everything in it and it's still not like work. So anyway, I ended up turning to the world of personal development mindset, and I loved fundraising. I felt a huge sense of purpose in it, but I also felt like there was still more of my purpose to give. And I felt like I've been kind of living my life at about 70%. Like I was doing good things. I was, doing a very purposeful job. I was giving back. I was making a difference. I enjoyed it, the majority of the time, and I felt I was good at it. But I still felt like there was something in me that wasn't being expressed. And when it became clear that I probably wasn't going to be able to have children, I was like, okay, well, if I'm not leaving a legacy through children, like most people would choose to do, what legacy am I leaving? Who am I now that I've been through all of these things? I'm probably not the same person as I was before. And what is my true purpose? What do I want to do? If I'm going to live my life to the full now as much as possible, what do I want to do? And so I delved into, self-discovery, awareness, did some online courses, read up all about mindset and the ability for it to transform your life. And I discovered through this purpose course that, I'd already had some thoughts that being a coach would be a good thing for me. The answers from this course seemed to point that way. And so I found a certification that covered the things that I wanted to learn and coach as a coach. Certified a few months later, launched my business on social media a few months after that. And there was that slight hesitancy because I feel like coaching is everywhere now. I don't know if that's because I'm in the coaching sphere or maybe it just is more. But I thought, people are going to think, oh, a life coach, that's well cheesy. What's she doing that for? But I pushed through that and I was like, no, I've certified now. This is what I'm doing. I'm really happy about it. And I got my first paying clients within a few weeks. And, touch wood, very grateful to say that, 3.5 years down the line, that work's been growing and here we are. So that was really long, but hopefully that answered what you said, what you wanted me to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, what a story, what a mindset. Honestly, I'm blown away. So it's because that can be really hard to go through. I mean,
it's honestly the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. I can not relate, but I see friends going through it and it's tough. I don't even know how to show up as a friend in that situation, never mind be you. So yeah. So not having kids is your journey, but that mindset is, let's say, universal, right? When people are going through a really hard time and trying to get themselves, and I just say like get themselves out of the mud and out of that, place of this is not working out for me. This is not what I wanted my life to look like, all of that stuff. So through your mindset, yourself and your optimism, and then what you studied and now what you do, what would you tell people going through a hard time? And I like to ask the question, so what are we not speaking enough about when it comes to building a life, building a career, building this work life that we love? We have said this before, but people should love Monday. It should be amazing. It should be like, I get to do this work. It's, like I am there. I love it. What should we be telling people to get there?
That's such a great question. If I take the thing that you said first about telling people that are going through that kind of thing, I would say the same thing that I say to my clients now, that aren't necessarily in that situation, but like you said, they're just going through a hard time. Be curious and be compassionate. So I think we tend to hold a lot of judgment, a lot of shame. I know that I did. Not just because, I couldn't do something that a woman can normally do, but because I felt a lot of jealousy and resentment and anger, especially towards, my friends or whatever that would get seemingly get pregnant without even needing to try. But then you feel like crap for thinking that about other people. But really it's coming from a space of hurt, right? And so I would say rather than beat yourself up about it, just be curious about where is this coming from? What am I making these things mean about myself? But also be compassionate in terms of treating yourself with the same loving kindness and compassion that you would show to somebody else that's going through that thing. That doesn't mean let yourself get away with doing or saying anything. Like treating yourself with compassion is also about, being able to hold up a mirror and be honest with yourself. So that's what I'd say about people that are going through a hard time, in a similar position. Also reach out and speak to someone, because I've had quite a few, because I've been quite open about my fertility journey now. I've had people reach out to me through social media that are like maybe acquaintances from school, or even like my friends have said, look, I know someone that's going through something. Can you speak to them? And I've done that, and it's really helped. So don't do it alone, and don't just do it through like social media blogging, because it's not quite the same. And then in terms of what I think more people need to know, and we were talking about this a little bit just before we jumped on and recorded this, but I think we're going to share a bit of wisdom that I had. So I've recently come back from a retreat in Thailand with a Buddhist meditation teacher who I've done some of his classes in the UK, and he was teaching over in Thailand. And the theme of the retreat was around wisdom and the path to happiness. And ultimately, that's what I'm doing in a way. Like my self-worth and confidence coaching is about helping people to reach the happiness, success, joy, purpose that they're worthy of, right? And I think it's understanding that, like, the often the cause of all of our suffering and our problems and our frustrations come down to what my teacher called self-grasping ignorance, but I'm going to call your ego and self-worth. Because if you, like I say, so if I could have in this fertility situation and I did think of actually, being honest, maybe I don't deserve to be a mother. Maybe, maybe I wasn't going to be a good mother. Maybe other people are more deserving and worthy than I am. Now, as an external person, that is not true, right? That's not how it works. But it was the meaning that I was attaching to that because of my ego and my self-worth. That's what it made me feel. And this happens a lot in any situation. So let's apply this, to like a development and career situation. Perhaps you've got a dream. There's something that you want to do. There's a role that you'd love to do. Maybe you're a little bit like me and you're like, I know I'm doing good work, but I know there's more potential in me than this. I know there's more of a purpose. There's more of my soul to be lit up. Like there are more people that I could be helping, that, even from the, there's more money I could be earning. Like there's no shame in that either. But the reason that you're not doing it, and I see this in my clients like 9 times out of 10, isn't because you don't have the time. It isn't because you don't have the qualifications. It isn't because you're not ready. It's because you don't believe that you're worthy of it. Inside there is that, what are you making it mean about you? Well, I'm not that far enough because I'm not smart enough. Like I say, other people have more opportunities than me. I think what people don't look at enough is whether or not they believe that they're worthy and capable of the things that they want. Or, like I say, when they have those negative feelings, when they are going through a tough time, they're perhaps not looking inward and being honest enough about where their self-worth or ego is the root of, perhaps how they're responding, because, we can't control things that happen outside of us, right? Being made redundant isn't necessarily anything to do with your self-worth or ego, but how you respond to it and how you use those, how you bounce back, how you use those opportunities, how you make sure that you are living your life and your purpose to the fullest is likely to be down to how you see yourself, what you think you're worthy and capable of doing.
Oh, there's so much I want to dig in there. I always, every time we speak, I'm like, man, we could have a whole day.
I know.
Episode. All right, let me try and focus it down. Let me process.
Yeah, sorry, because I gave you a lot there as well. So.
No, I mean, and it's awesome. So let me focus on one thing. So the piece of that really hit me the hardest, because I personally went through that, is why me? So who do I think I am? Right. When I started my program and I was speaking to so many people and they were like, but Candice, it can only be you. It is you. You are the person. And I was like, but that makes no sense. So how do you get people, and without giving us free coaching here, because I feel like your coaching is so valuable, how would you get people to just make even that first step of, okay, it is me? because it's hard, or this is my purpose, or this is what lights my soul on fire. I also love that because, literally what I do personally lights my soul on fire. Like, I love it. I just want to do it all the time. Literally. I cannot get enough of it. But I did not start there. It's taken me over a year to get to the place where I'm like, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. And I am worthy of it, right? I am going to pursue it until it's successful. Like, there's no other option for me right now because I love it so much. And it took me a long time. So what do you tell your clients to do, like that first step of just starting to believe in themselves, that they are worthy of pursuing their dreams and their goals, and are worthy of that soul fire thing?
Yeah.
What's that first step?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. It's different depending on the block for each client itself. But what I always do with clients first is get them to be super. But what we do first is get like real super clear on what it is that they actually want, because some people are actually quite vague. And they don't necessarily put like a timeline on it. They don't make it super specific. So I think, first of all, you have to get really clear what it is that you're asking for. And then the next step then is thinking, okay, well, what are the things that come up for me when I think about doing it, or why I haven't done it already? What are the patterns? What are the stories that I'm telling myself? Like say, it might be that, you might think, oh, it's just I'm busy. Like say, I don't really have time, or I just want to get another qualification. But, the more that you dig under there about what is the actual inner narrative that I'm probably not even 100% conscious of, because I'm just used to thinking it on autopilot all the time. What are these things that I'm thinking? But the step to believing in yourself first has to come with awareness. That awareness piece first, as in being aware of what's specifically holding you back. Because the reason I became a self-worth coach, right, is because I thought I was going to be a career or purpose coach, which obviously is a large part of what I do. But actually, when I was first working with clients, there were some coming to me that hadn't found their soulmate yet, for example. So I worked with people across this whole spectrum of life issues. And I found that at the root of it, no matter what it was some form of, I'm not good enough. Now, they will all have different nuances. You're not good enough might be, I'm not like smart or clever enough, or it might be, I'm not likable. Like, I've had all of these from my clients. Okay. So, but the thing is, if you don't know what nuance, what that underlying script is, then you can't build your self-belief in the way that you need to do it. Does that make sense? You need to know it's broader than, I can't do it. It's broader than I don't have time. It's more involved in that. And so where you need to start is getting super, super clear on what your specific block is, what your specific story is, because you can't build self-belief without having that awareness first. I've got like this whole process of how I work with clients called the pyramid of self-worth. And it's about having that foundation, first of all, of self-awareness. So, being aware of, what your limiting beliefs are, what your stories are, who you are as a person, what the real truth is that's going on beneath it. And then there's like self-discovery. So finding out more about yourself, your core values, like knowing yourself inside and out, because again, knowing your strengths and everything and your values, that's where you build belief from. When you are, your authentic self, you're doing things, and that's where you find your purpose as well. And then there's, further ones on top of that around self-compassion, which obviously we've already spoken about, self-image, how about how you see yourself? Because again, if you don't, and all of these are incorporated into self-worth, they all build self-worth. But again, if you don't see yourself, if you don't have an image of yourself as someone that it can hold the things that you dream about, that purpose you dream about, that business, that career, that income, that impact, if you can't see yourself speaking on stages or podcasts or whatever, then, your actions are not going to reflect that in person. So I think that's where you need to start is that awareness piece.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so good. So good. Yeah. And, I'm writing a book, and this is exactly the
Yeah,
first pillar,
absolutely.
which is remember who you are. And I keep thinking every time you're talking, I'm like, man, I wish I met you 18 months ago, because I'm sure you would have fast tracked me. It took me so long of just self discovery, sitting with myself, I didn't get a coach or anything like that. And, now I'm like, oh,
Yeah, but sometimes
you would have
doing
just fast tracked
Yeah,
so
but
much
doing that work
self
yourself
harm.
though, that
Yeah.
it gives another element to it, doesn't it? Because you are finding it all out yourself. So yeah, obviously
Mm.
there's the speed element, and if you are wanting to, to bring a business vision to life or a career to life, then absolutely, your coach will get you there easier, quicker, will
Mhm.
highlight things that you've not seen, open doors, put a spotlight on things, ask you the questions you've not been asking yourself, and help you see things that you just couldn't see without yourself.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely possible to do some other work yourself. Certainly self-discovery work, but yeah, having somebody there as a mirror does make things easier and quicker for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It would have saved me a long time. Yes. Okay. Now, before we wrap up, I do want to ask you a little bit about your biggest learnings with this retreat you went on, because again, we spoke about it when just before we hit record. What did you discover about yourself that you want to share with others?
Mm. I think what it really helped me, I mentioned a bit about it before, but what it really helped me to do was over the past few months, I've been obviously building this business over the past few years, and I felt really proud of everything that I've been doing, that everything I've been doing, sorry. And I've been made, finalist of like Life Coach of the Year again for the second time. And I was a finalist for Solopreneur of the Year. And we are talking about all these things, and there's nothing wrong with being proud of all these things. But then my teacher was telling me about how we become attached to things, and how even pride is a sense of like ego. And that it was almost such a really beautiful shift when I thought about the fact that I'm not special. Like, yes, anyone can say, oh, it almost goes against like self-worth and coaching things to say like you're not special. It's more like what you have to give is special. And it totally made me think, it's not that I'm special, it's that I've been given something special to give to other people. Do you know what I mean? Like when you work from service, it almost releases the pressure on you around like this pressure you put on yourself to achieve, to do things. When you say, this isn't about me, this isn't about me feeling like necessarily proud of what I do, or being recognized or having this validation. Actually, when you come from a sense of, oh, okay, I don't need to have approval of myself or feel proud of myself because I did this. I'm here, I've been given or acquired these gifts I have to serve people. And when you know that, oh, actually, I just need to come from service, I just need to use what I've got to support people, that ego element and pressure element is actually taken out of it. And it comes back to what he was saying about the fact that the root of all of our suffering and our problems and our frustrations comes down to our ego. And he's totally right, because if you were to take that away, it's like when you have a sense of, like, say if I was working with a client and I said, well, I've given all these things, I've given all these, these frameworks, these tools to come out of, and they're not necessarily using them. When we have that sense of ego, we get a bit like, oh, well, why haven't they done this? Why haven't they done that? But like the truth is, nobody owes you anything. Nobody has to do things the way that you think they should do them in order for you to feel like you're validated, you've done the right thing. And if your ego wasn't, or your self-worth wasn't tied up with how well people did or received you, then we would all just be so much more free. Like say, of that pressure of that disappointment, of how we get angry or upset by people. Ultimately, I think it's that sense of wisdom is about having a perspective and not being attached to things, to people, to results, but more wanting to spread the teacher talked about these two wings of like wisdom and compassion and loving kindness. And the wisdom side was being able to be detached, from things without thinking, having your ego kind of get in the way. And then, like you say, this sense of like self-grasping of always thinking someone shouldn't be doing that to me, or this shouldn't mean that about me. If you can let go of that, and on the other side, live with compassion and loving kindness and wishing well to people, using your purpose to serve others, being compassionate towards other people, celebrating their achievement, or feeling good, that people have things that are making them happy, then that's kind of like a real happy, sense to happiness and attachment. But I think that's also, like I say, super aligned with self-worth, because again, if you know that you have this value to give to others, and that has no kind of what other people do and have no bearing on this value that you have to give to others, then, like I say, that sense of confidence and freedom and happiness that you have is just, it's unlimitless, really. I'm still getting my head around it, but it just backed up so much of what I teach, but just in a different way. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, that is so good, so good. And I'm sure you're going to incorporate that into your coaching, and it's going to be
definitely
epic. Because when you started, I was like, where's she going with this? Like, why should we not be proud of our stuff? Like, because I also feel proud of what I've done, but I love that reframe that you said it so well. So that's really cool. All right. I think this is the perfect spot. Now, the final question of every episode is, if you could go back in time to young you, all the lessons learned, what would you thank yourself for doing then that really set you up for where you are now?
That is a really good question. I think I would go back to that younger me, that like the younger me, that had that sense of like possibility, because I think that's what I felt like I lost over those years. When I said like I lost that sense of like confidence and self-esteem, and then direction, and then I felt like, oh, this is just the life that you live now. Everybody just, you just do this and you get a job that you can barely tolerate, and then, you get married and you have kids, and I got stuck on that conveyor belt. And I think if I hadn't have had that side in me when I was younger that said, no, you do have something special to give, and there is possibility for you to live like an extraordinary life, I don't think I would have then been able to connect back with it now. Does that make sense? So it's almost like having thankful that my younger self knew that was possible, because that meant I could return to it now that I'm in that space where, oh, actually, no, I can make an extraordinary life for myself. I can make an extraordinary impact and difference. And yeah, I guess that's what I would thank my younger self for.
That is so good. So good. Thank you. All right. Who should get in touch with you? Why should they get in touch with you?
Okay. So who should get in touch with me? So if you are particularly a woman, but I do work with men as well. But if you are a woman that feels like I said, that you have been living your career or business at 70%, or maybe you do have inside that kind of that feeling, that purpose, that mission, whether you want to make change or whether you've got this like secret desire for a business or career level that you haven't yet quite said out loud, and you want to have the kind of self-belief to bring that vision to life, you want to live your life to the biggest potential, then you should definitely get in touch. Because, like I say, especially if you're someone that's done, say you've got a business, you've done all of your, marketing courses, you've got, you've had a business coach, you've worked on the strategy, and some of those things aren't working, then it's likely that it's your self-worth and it's nothing to do with strategy. So if that sounds like you, if you're someone that knows there's more in you, that wants to live that life of more confidence, more impact, more income, more freedom, more joy, then yeah, that's something that I can help you with. So I offer both one-to-one coaching, group coaching. I've got a new membership coming up in the new year that I'm launching called the Self-Worth Project, which is for either women, like I say, that are looking to bring that to life, or if you're an early stage or early-ish stages entrepreneur and you're not quite reaching that potential, you're not comfortable being, making yourself visible, you're not quite running your business and that vision to the level to which you want, then that's definitely something I can help with. So you can find out more about me. I'm sure we'll share something in the podcast show notes for them to look at. But I also offer a free 30-minute discovery call or consultation for anybody that wants to know where their next path should be or wants to find out more about my one-to-one coaching. That's who it's for. So if any of that resonates, or you can just come drop me a message on LinkedIn or Insta. I'm often hanging out on there as well.
Awesome. We will absolutely have all the links. And when does your project go live? It's
the Self-Worth project. So I'm going to be launching that in January. And actually what I'm doing first is a beta run because it's a new project. So I'm going to be doing a beta run with 15 women. So it will be run at a beta price in exchange for testimonials and feedback and a chance to build that membership from the ground. So it'll basically be a mixture of on-demand kind of bite-sized workshops around building confidence. It brings together all of my certifications, which are things in money mindset coaching, self-worth coaching, obviously, psychology of success, and positive psychology, which is all about the science behind kind of happiness and well-being. So it's gonna be like the full package for, like I say, women with a dream or women running businesses that know that they've done everything else but self-worth and confidence, and that self-doubt is the main kicker, because like I say, without the foundation of self-worth and confidence, you won't do what you want to do. You won't show up in the way you want to do with all of the things that you've learned and all of the gifts that you have.
Amazing. We can absolutely link that in the description. That's going to be epic.
Awesome. Yeah, I think so.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. It's been another amazing hour chatting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.